Hey, this is Randolph here. We're at GDC talking to Bayon. Bayon is a Kyoto-based artist who worked with Q Games on PixelJunk Eden and PixelJunk Eden Encore. Specifically, he's the guy who did all the art and the sound for the game. Bayon, can I ask you firstly, how did you get involved with Q Games and PixelJunk Eden?
I was at a party with a bunch of artists when I was introduced to Dylan Cuthbert, president of Q Games. We were both familiar with each other's work, and I'd been working on graphics design and music mainly, but I really wanted to work with video games for quite some time now. So when we met, we got to talking, and Dylan told me that they were in fact working on a very interesting project that I might be interested in. It ended up being the PixelJunk series, and it led to meetings with directors and producers, and then to me working on PixelJunk Eden.
What is it about video games that attracted you to want to work in that field?
As I mentioned before, I mainly work with graphics and music. What's different and special in video games is really the story. Much like a movie, there's a beginning and an end. I wanted to create the kind of depth in the environments and the worlds that are available in games. I'm also a really big video game nerd, and I've always wanted to work on games.
So you have worked on quite a lot of other multimedia. You've mentioned graphics and clothes, posters, music. How does working in games compare to those other art forms?
In a 2D static design, once the composition is determined, that's pretty much the end of it. You're done. But when you're actually playing a game, there's motion. Eden, for example, has plants that move, other elements that move. This made determining and judging the right composition, the right look, a little bit trickier. So I spent quite a lot of effort trying to get that just right.
There was a very, unique and specific art style and sound design to Eden and Encore. Can you tell us about your inspirations for that? What were you trying to convey in that game?
My inspiration probably came from my daily experiences. Things that I've experienced in the past, how I was in the past, my family. It wasn't really anything specific to plants or living things in particular. It was more from things like the art culture that I came up in, and of course other games, and the respect that I have for those things.
There's, an ongoing debate within the wider community, questioning the worth of games as art. Could I get your view on that? Do you think games are art, and are all games, can they be considered an art form?
And I came to feel that when I concentrated too much on the aesthetics, the beautiful art side of it, it really tended to affect the gaming aspect of it and perhaps confuse the player. And so I couldn't treat it strictly as an art form, which was rather difficult at times. Making the game also fun made it feel like the communication I was having with the player was more interactive. So you ask me if all games are art. Well, games are games. I don't really differentiate, nor would I want to differentiate whether a game is art or not. It doesn't really matter to me. It would make me happy to make games that people enjoy, something that will allow me to have meaningful communication with the player and create a whole new world for gaming.
You did mention that you're a gamer yourself. What type of games do you like to play?
I always tell people I really like the Mother series, or the Earthbound series as it's called in the West. I love the music, art direction, the world inside the game. The story is really great as well. I recently played Braid. I thought that was really fun. I've actually been playing Tingle RPG for quite some time now. It's a pretty long game, and it does get quite difficult towards the end with everything costing so much.
So tell me about your plans for working in games in the future. Do you have anything specific that you're working on now?
I haven't worked a long time in the games industry. I sort of took a roundabout way to get into the games culture. In the future, I hope to maybe not mix things up, but if there's a way I can put my mark on the games that I work on in a fun way, I'd really like to continue working on games.
So, just one last question. Well, what's next on your slate? What's your next major project that you're working on?
I'm actually working on quite a lot of things right now. So please, come check out my website for updates.
Thanks for that. That was Bayon, a Kyoto-based artist who was talking to us about his work on PixelJunk Eden Encore and a few other things as well. Check out GameSpot for more on GDC.